Alright everyone, hopefully you're all doing well. Welcome back to the Football Rundown. Of course, we're back here today with a match preview as Stockport County take on AFC Wimbledon this upcoming Saturday at Edgeley Park, 3 o'clock. Finally got another 3 o'clock kick-off at home. Feels like it's been a long time since we last played at Edgeley Park at 3 o'clock, to be honest. The last two weekends have been 12:30 away from home, which haven't been ideal, but finally back on home soil for a Saturday 3 o'clock game. What I'm very much looking forward to. We come into this, of course, on the back of a 1-1 draw away at Luton last weekend, where I thought we didn't start particularly well, but I thought in the second half we got ourselves back in the game. Ollie Norwood, what a free kick! That puts us level, and in the end, I think we showed quite a bit of fight as well in that second half, and probably come away from it saying that we deserved the point. And I think it's a very decent point to come away with, to be honest. So we come into this last two matches. We got the winner against Northampton back at Edgeley Park last Tuesday, 2-1 win. Had a lot of chances in the game, should have killed the game really, but we didn't. But we still got the 3 points. Then you've gone away to Luton. You've got a very decent point away at Kenilworth Road. So we sort of look at that and you go, it's not really been too bad the last week, especially when you look at the few weeks before that, sort of Stevenage away, Lincoln away, where things hadn't been great. I mean, you could argue we could have got a point away at Stevenage, but we didn't. Lincoln, no, I said Luton. Then Lincoln wasn't really great again. We probably could have got a draw. We wouldn't have deserved the draw, but they got the second on the 87th minute and then they scored the third in stoppage time, I think. So you could argue we could have easily got a draw from that in the end if we just held on a bit more. But it's all about seeing a game out, isn't it? It's all about game management, and we didn't really show that against Lincoln. Having said that, Lincoln have been incredible this season, and obviously that shows with where they are in the table now. Overtaking Cardiff over the last month or so. So I think it's not been the season we all hoped for, but it's been a season that we could still have something to look back on and take a lot of pride in terms of the Virtue Trophy, of course, final at Wembley, and we could still yet make the playoffs and get promoted to the Championship. So although it hasn't been maybe as strong as what last season felt like, in terms of what's actually possible this season, we could actually achieve more this season than what we did last season, despite being better to watch and more enjoyable, and probably having more memories across the season last year, which I think is an incredible position to be in. But it does also say just how poor League One's been this season as well, and I think a lot of fans from various clubs in League One are sort of sharing that opinion at the moment, that this season has been a very poor season in League One. But that's just my thoughts, of course, on League One. Want to get people's thoughts on AFC Wimbledon, of course, our opponents on Saturday. Of course, we were meant to face them back in November, but the game didn't go ahead due to the fact that AFC Wimbledon had, I think it was 3 or more international call-ups, so they were able to trigger a postponement or a rescheduling of the game. That game is still yet to be played, actually. It will take place in mid-April. I don't know what the situation was this weekend. I don't know if they could have triggered a postponement or not, or if they had 3 or more international call-ups this time around or not. Not really sure, but either way, the game's going ahead. And like I say, based on our recent results at Edgeley Park, it's a game I'm very much looking forward to, and I am confident we can get something from this game. But in terms of Wimbledon, how they come into this game, of course, visiting Edgeley Park on Saturday. Well, in their last 5 matches in League One, they picked up 2 wins, one draw and 2 defeats. They won against Northampton and Blackpool, a 1-0 win over Northampton, a 4-1 win over Blackpool, before then losing 1-0 away to Stevenage. Then a 4-2 defeat, I think it was, at home to Leyton Orient, which wasn't great, especially with where Orient have been this season, before then getting a 1-1 draw against Peterborough at home in their last match. In terms of away form, how do they travel? Well, they currently find themselves 8th in the away table. This season, 19 matches played while away from home, 6 wins, 4 draws and 9 defeats. They've scored 25 while away from home this season in League One, while conceding 36. Now, only Leyton Orient have conceded more goals than AFC Wimbledon while away from home this season. They've conceded 38. In terms of away matches, away results for Wimbledon, they've only won 1 in their last 7 matches in League One this season, which isn't it's not great, is it? 1 in the last 7 away matches. That is probably music to County's ears, especially with how County have been at home recently, where they have managed to grind out results. But in terms of overall, what's the bigger picture like for AFC Wimbledon this season in League One? Well, they're currently 14th in League One. Probably fair to say they don't really have loads to play for. They're not really threatened by relegation, but nor do they really like they've got a real chance of getting in the playoffs either. So it's kind of almost season almost over, I think, for AFC Wimbledon. Love to get the fans of any Wimbledon fans that are watching this. Is that a fair assessment, or do you disagree? Do you actually think there is still something to play for? Just purely where I'm looking at it from, with the points there on, it doesn't really look like they can make inroads into the playoffs. Doesn't really look like they're going to get drawn into a relegation battle. So it almost seems like it's just a case of preparing for next season, and it's another season in League One for Wimbledon, which is good, of course, after getting promoted from League Two last season. So very much feels like it's going to be another season in League One for them, not really going to move up or down. In terms of their season as a whole, how's it been? Well, I think they probably enjoyed their best spell of form between September and October. They went on a 7-match unbeaten run in that period of time, where they won 6 and drew just one of those games, which is a really decent run to go on. In fact, I don't even think we've put a run together better than that this season. So, and I think we had a similar run around that period of time. So I think it's a decent run to be on, but I think it's fair to say they've not really put that much of a run together like that since, especially in the last 3 matches in League One, where they have obviously lost 2 and drawn 1. Top scorer then for AFC Wimbledon, well, that is of course Marcus Brown. 12 League One goals this season to his name, although he hasn't scored in any of his last 6 matches for AFC Wimbledon. In terms of who's in that squad, well, there are 3 ex-Hatters in that AFC Wimbledon squad. You've got Ryan Johnson, of course, Joe Lewis, and of course fan favourite at Stockport County, Miles Hippolyte. So that is of course the situation then with AFC Wimbledon. Let's just have a quick look at the League One table. How's it shaping going into the weekend then? Well, of course, you can see in the top half of the table, Stockport County sitting 5th in League One, 60 points on the board now, with 2 games in hand over the 2 sides in front as well. I mean, if they can win those 2 matches in hand, well, they can go level points with Bolton. I'd imagine goals difference would be the difference between them being in 3rd and not. But very, very positive. Like I say, they could still very much finish 3rd, which is where they finished last season, which would be incredible. There's obviously a lot of teams behind County looking to try and get themselves into the playoffs, and realistically, you'd say anyone from sort of Wickham upwards has the opportunity, but County with 2 games in hand over the rest, and Stevenage with a game in hand over the rest as well, looks like those 2 are going to be strong for the playoffs come the end of the season. In terms of the bottom half of the table, like I say, AFC Wimbledon 14th, doesn't really seem like they've got too much to play for. 8 points between them and the relegation zone, and obviously 10 points off Stevenage in the playoff, that final playoff position. So doesn't really like they've got much to play for really, but they seem steady. I don't think they're really going to get drawn into the relegation zone. Having said that, never say never. They do have a game in hand over 3 of those bottom 4 sides as well, so they should be okay really. To get a few points here or there, they shouldn't really get drawn in. I do believe there's worse sides in League One this season that if any of those teams in the bottom 4 manages to find their way out, the likes of Wigan, Exeter, Burton later on could easily be dragged in before you look at AFC Wimbledon. So there we go. And then, of course, that is the League One table going into Saturday, like I just said as well. If County can win those 2 games in hand, they could easily go level with Bolton in 3rd place, which would be, that would be decent given that there were times a few weeks ago where it did look like County could even drop out of the playoffs, which I think would have been almost unforgivable. It hasn't really been the season that we were looking for. Like I said, I don't think we've had the same moments, the same memories from this season that we had last season. We certainly haven't put in strong enough performances across the season like we did last season. But we still managed to find ourselves in a position where we could almost, on paper, finish in the same league position. So it's interesting that we haven't been as good, yet we could still finish in the same league position. That for me says about how poor this league's been, but it is what it is, I guess. And in terms of playoffs, I'd look at it and say we're still lucky to even be in a position where we can be in the playoffs given how poor we've been at times this season. Having said that, it's not as if other teams have been brilliant either. I think that even if you look at Cardiff, I mean, they've dropped off. Everyone thought Cardiff were going to win this league. They were going to be at the top by some distance. They've managed to fall off, and they've let Lincoln overtake them. So, Cardiff have fallen off. They haven't done what they would have expected this season, and that's just because of how poor it's been. I remember there were times in December, January. We were all kind of saying, does anyone actually want to win this league? Because even Cardiff were top at the time. They were dropping points. They obviously got that draw with us. And I think since then, you can almost say, since they played us in January, they've fallen off. Now, whether or not that's because their star striker got injured against us, I don't know. Obviously, that's come up yet again this week because of Brad Hills' injury. You got Cardiff fans who are, they're absolutely loving the fact that he's now injured. So for me, I didn't even think about Cardiff fans, to be honest, when I heard that Hills was injured. But I guess that's Cardiff fans for you. They've absolutely dropped off, and if I were them, I would be more worried about how much they've let top spot go than a team that is going to have to be in the playoffs. Worry about their defender being injured. But yeah, it is what it is. I think that for County, the objective now is, can we get promoted? Can we win at Wembley? In fact, can we win at Wembley twice, I guess, because we do have Luton in the Virtue Trophy final. I'm fairly confident, but it's not based on performances across the season like would normally be the case. It's purely based on the fact that other teams aren't great, and even the two teams in front, we win those 2 games in hand, we could overtake both those. So it goes to show just how poor the league's been. Now, outside the top 2, I think Bolton have been the best, but even them, for us to be in a position where we could overtake them if we win our 2 games in hand, it says a lot about the league. Obviously, goals difference is massively in Bolton's favour, compared to us, and that's why even if we win those 2 games in hand, we won't be in third necessarily. But it's just one of those. And I guess the thing is, well, we're talking about just winning those 2 games in hand. Like it's that easy. We've been really inconsistent this season, so there's no saying that we're going to just win 2 games in a row like that, because we haven't really put much of a run together all season. I do think we need one now. I think that if we're going to go into the playoffs, I want us to go in with momentum, and I think that it's important we do that. And I think it's important that we get a result against Wimbledon on Saturday. Now, no disrespect to Wimbledon, but I've just said it before. I don't think Wimbledon really have much to play for. They're coming away from home. They've only won 1 in the last 7 matches while away this season. County should be looking at this and saying, how many are we going to score? But unfortunately, it's County of this season, not County of last season. County of last season would win this game pretty comfortably, I'd imagine. I think they would have won the game against Northampton pretty comfortably, and I think they probably would have got the win against Luton last weekend as well. But this is the team we've got, isn't it? And I think that it does lack depth, it does lack quality, and it lacks players with character and personality that they can impose on the match. Now, of course, we are hoping to have one of those players back available soon. Of course, Louis Barry, they said that he would be back at the end of March, maybe early April. We're obviously hoping Louis Barry is going to come in and save the season for us. It's a lot of expectation to put on a player which has been out for a very, 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 very long period of time. He will need time to adjust. He will need time to get up to speed. Whether or not we're going to allow him to do that, I'm not sure, because the reality is he's coming on loan. He's been injured the whole time. We almost can't wait for him to get match fit, because by the time that happens, the season's gone. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with Louis Barry. If he was our player, we actually signed him, I would say, let's not rush him back. But given the fact that it's just a loan signing to help us get over the line, as soon as he's available to play football again, we almost have to try and get him in. So I think it'll be interesting to see how Dave Chalner manages that situation, but we're obviously hoping to be back soon. Don't expect to be involved on Saturday, to be honest. I think if I was going to look at it more sensibly, I'd say he's got more of a shout next Friday. I think it would be against Wickham at home, if not failing that, Bolton away before the final against Luton. So I don't think we'll see any sign of Louis Barry for the next week or so, but you never know what can happen. In terms of players that we could well see feature, but we haven't seen the feature all season, well, one of those is potentially R2 Hoskonen, and of course, we've seen the injury update with Brad Hills. Doesn't look great. Looks like he's going to be out for, at least the rest of this season, it looks like now. And that obviously opens the door for R2 Hoskonen, of course, who we signed in the summer. Has not even featured in a matchday squad yet, I don't think. But, if he can't get involved in the matchday squad when Brad Hills is injured, when is he ever going to get involved in a matchday squad for County at all at this point? So he's going to likely be at least on the bench, I'd imagine, if not on Saturday in the next week or so. In terms of Hills' injury replacement, it's pretty much like for like, isn't it? I think Joseph Olowu will take his place in that starting 11, just like he did against for Hills against Luton on Saturday. We can actually provide the official update here from the club. So this is what County put out yesterday on social media. They said that we regret to inform supporters that Brad Hills sustained an ACL injury in Saturday's draw at Luton Town. That will rule him out for the foreseeable future. Our full focus is on supporting Brad throughout his recovery. We know he'll come back stronger. So initially I read that and I thought, foreseeable future, how long is that? I was naively confident he could be back before the end of the season. Then, of course, I saw the tweet from Sam Byrne, who then said that Brad Hills has suffered an ACL injury in the 1-1 draw at Luton Town on Saturday, and he will be out for several months. So several months, I've suddenly gone from thinking he might make the last few games to, he's going to be out for several months. That's no Hills then for the rest of the season then. It has to be. So that's my point on Hoskonen. Now he then adds that Joseph Olowu would be the obvious stand-in right now, with R2 Hoskonen also continuing on his comeback trail. So that's where we're at with R2 Hoskonen, that's where we're at with Joseph Olowu. Now I thought Olowu came on for Hills on Saturday, and as good as Hills has been this season, don't get me wrong, I actually think he's been in our top 2 best players this season. It's a toss of a coin between him and Cal Wootton. I actually don't think we looked any worse when Joseph Olowu came on, to be honest, on Saturday, and that's encouraging because we all know how important Hills has been for us this season. Like I say, top 2 best players for us this season. But it's encouraging to know that you can bring on Joseph Olowu and not really feel like we were, really a man down in any way. I say a man down, you know what I mean? We didn't really feel like we had lost, a top centre-back, which Brad Hills, of course, is. And that gives me some confidence that Joseph Olowu can step into his shoes and hopefully, not literally, but hopefully, not be too much of a miss for us. Obviously, we value Hills a lot, but hopefully Olowu can step in. And to be honest, when I first watched him come in this season from Doncaster, I thought he looked a decent defender. Quick, athletic, got a really good jump on him, good in the air. Looked like he was calm and composed on the ball as well, and looked like he had aspects of real natural leadership there as well. Now, obviously, the last few months, it's not really looked quite that way for him. Whether or not it's the fact that he cannot fit into a back three, whether or not it's the fact that actually, when you've got Brad Hills there with the personality and style of play that Brad Hills is, does it really allow Olowu to show that himself? Maybe not. But yeah, I think there's a lot of positives in Joseph Olowu, and hopefully this is now an opportunity for him to shine. But obviously, we're also looking at him thinking hopefully it's an opportunity for Artu HOSKONEN to show what he can do, because there's a large section of the fan base that don't even believe he exists, and based on the fact he's not even featured for us yet in almost a year, can you really blame him? So we spoke about the Brad Hills situation. Obviously, you'll see it on the banner below as well. It talks about Brad Hills injured. It does say time to start a run, which obviously we spoke about, that importance of getting momentum going into the playoffs. It also says Wootton down. Now, obviously, he came off at half-time on Saturday. They said it was a precautionary injury. I think it was a dead leg, something like that. So he came off. Now, he has since been pictured training this week, so we know he's back available, no problem. But potentially, he might not start the game. That's just my opinion. I think that actually there's an opportunity here for us to try something different. There's an opportunity for us to start maybe Tanto and Sidibe together, and maybe have Wootton on the bench. What we don't want to do is, when there's a slight knock to Cal Wootton, and obviously we know how important he is for us this season, if there's any case of potential injury, we don't want to risk that. Obviously, I think, did he miss Wembley last time as well? I think that it's really important that we manage this carefully. I also think it's kind of an opportunity to, a bit like what happens with Hills, really, where Hills gets injured, it's not great, but from that, there's an opportunity to play Joseph Olowu. I kind of see this as, Wootton had we took him off as a precaution last week. He could be carrying a knock. Let's use this as an opportunity to try something different, and if not, he's on the bench to come on and have an impact. I'd like to see us play Sidibe and Tanto together. I think that they're both absolute handfuls for defenders, and I think that if you play both of them together, I think it would be really interesting to see what that looks like. So I'd like to see us do that. I don't know if we're necessarily going to do that, but I guess we'll get into the team selection now. So there we go then. Obviously, I've already kind of given away a little bit of what my idea is going to the game on Saturday of what I'd like to see us do. But again, this is by no means something that I think we'll do. I don't think Chelsea will do this, but it's something I'd like to see us do. And I think, to be honest, it's probably something that a lot of the fan base would like to see us do at this point. So it's a back four instead of a back three. It's a midfield three and it's a front three. I want to see us go with a 4-3-3. I want to see, obviously, Adai in goal. I want to see Dacres Cogley play as a natural right back. Then I want to see us play Joseph Olowu alongside Ethan Pye as the back, well, the two centre-backs, back two if you like. Teo Eden at left back, a midfield three with Ollie Norwood, Lewis Spate and Odin Bailey. Then I'd like to see us play Tanto on the left, Diamond on the right and Sidibe up top. It's not something I think that Charlie will do, to be honest. I think that it's almost a guarantee. If Wootton can manage to play, he will play because he always plays as many minutes as possible. To be honest, very rarely do you see him dropped. But I just think we're at a point in the season now, he's picked up a bit of a knock. They took him off as a precaution. Let's just try something different. You never know what the result could be. It could be something that gets us going. And I think that's. I think a lot of fans would like to see that Sidibe-Tanto partnership as well and see how that develops. And is there something there that could well work for us? Alternatively, you could also look at getting Stokes into the team as well. I think Stokes has been a bit of a weird signing on loan from Bristol City. I think that he's come in and there's some games where he does really well and he'll get like a goal and an assist or 2 goals or 2 assists. But then there's other games where he can go missing. We obviously know he's carrying an injury as well, so he can't start a game and finish the game, so he can only play probably a maximum of 60 minutes probably. So if you start him, you know that you're pretty much going to have to take him off after 60 minutes. If you bring him on off the bench, great. But I think that he's probably a better player to have starting the game, to be honest. So you could try and get him into that starting 11. He can obviously play out wide. He can play behind the striker. So potentially we'll see, Josh Stokes come in. He got a goal and assist in our last match at Edgeley Park. So who knows what will happen there. Maybe we could see Josh Stokes come in. And to be honest, I don't think I'd be particularly that opposed to that. But I think it'll be interesting to see how County set up without Hills and possibly without Calverton. So there we go then. I want to get your thoughts, of course, in the comment section below, as always, on this one. I want to get your thoughts on whether or not you think that County can get the win on Saturday. Can County win at Wembley against Luton? And can they then go through the playoffs and manage to get a win at Wembley in the playoffs as well? Can we get promoted to the Championship? How do you see the season finishing for Stockport County? Obviously, I want to get your thoughts on Brad Hills. Just how much of a miss do you think he'll be for us from now until the end of the season? Or can Joseph Alobu step up and be the defender that we're hoping to have had this season? Of course, maybe a little bit more of an experienced head than Brad Hills, but not that much more experienced, to be honest. Can he step up in the absence of Hills? Calverton, will he start on Saturday? Should we maybe go down the direction of starting Sidibe and Tanto together, see what those two can do? Would you like to see Josh Stokes come in as well? What are your thoughts on that? Back three, back four, what's your preference? Can County finish third as well, I guess, this season? Obviously, we win those 2 games in hand. We will go third or just behind third on goals difference. Want to get your thoughts, basically, on everything Stockport County. In terms of score prediction for this game on Saturday, well, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking against Wimbledon, we've won, I think, 3 of our last 4 matches against AFC Wimbledon. We've won each of our 2 matches at home to AFC Wimbledon 1-0. With, of course, Odin Bailey scoring in our last win against them at Edgeley Park. I think it was a late winner to guide us towards the League 2 title. Both been 1-0 at Edgeley Park in recent times, so I'm going to say County win this one. Bear in mind that we're not particularly ruthless in front of goal as well. I'm going to say County win this one 1-0 again. So there's my prediction. Want to get yours in the comment section below. Don't forget to like the video if you've enjoyed it. Do subscribe if you are new. And we'll see you guys on Saturday with the match day vlog. And hopefully it'll be a big win for Stockport County. But I'm thinking at the moment 1-0. So I want to get your thoughts.